So, welcome, folks. This is Kim McLeod from Indie Authors World, and I have got the very, very lovely Mrs. Helen Cochrane with us today. Welcome, Helen.
Hiya.
Helen is one of our go-to ladies for illustrations, and lots of writers kind of ask us about how do you work with an illustrator and what happens and how's the whole process. So I thought it would be useful if Helen and I just had a bit of a chat talking about how this all works. And we're going to share some of Helen's work that she's done, and we're just going to, go through hopefully some tips for you if you're thinking about going to work with an illustrator at all, what you might need to kind of prepare, I suppose, before you go and talk to them. So how did you get into illustrating, Helen? That's the, what was it that kind of took you there?
Well, when I was wee, I always liked to draw. And then when I became a teenager, I sort of lost that. I think a lot of people tend to lose the things that they're passionate about when they're wee. But then it came back to me because I got a job in a high school, and I found that my artwork there came in handy, supporting kids and decorating walls and various things, and creating maps and what have you. And I realised that I love this. I really, really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I decided, now how old was I? I think I was about 45 when I decided to go and speak to the school careers advisor. And, can you give me a couple of pointers? One of the main things that I was concerned about is because I worked all my days, and going back into education, it's all about, can I still pay my bills? So he was able to give me information about, well, this can happen and that can happen. I went, okay, I'll look into that. He says, well, tell you what, he says, I know that at City Glasgow College, they've got an illustration course for HND. So I went, all right. He says, let's have a look at it. So we were actually applying for it. He says, let's just see what it would look like to fill in an application form. So we did that, and I went, oh, that sounds really good. He went, hey, and what do you think of that? I says, that sounds brilliant. He went, click, good, because you've just applied for it. I went, what? So that led on to that. So that was 2 years of illustration. Mm-hmm. And then my final year was contemporary art. So my degree is in contemporary art, but specialised in illustration. So that was the end up of that.
There you go. So that's so I suppose the thing that's out there is, like lots of writers, they'll maybe come to it late on in life as well. It's never too late to actually go and
that's it. That's it. My kids, their kids are up, and I just decided, I want something a wee bit different. So I did.
Good. And you've been doing you do lots of different things for yourself as well. I know that you're often posting things on your Facebook pages, and just illustrations and videos and stuff that you've done. So is it something? Are you drawing all the time? I mean, is it something that you do a lot?
It seems like that. It seems like that. But one of the interesting things that was sort of put to me when I was studying is part of the sharing is it gives people joy, plus you're self-promoting. And that's a thing that I found difficult because it seemed to me you're just showing off.
And that's the Scottish psyche, isn't it?
That is it. So now I'm used to that. I'm posting. It's to share what I enjoy. Hopefully other people get enjoyment out of it. And also it can, bring in business as well.
Yeah.
So I do all that. But yeah, drawing, I would say it really depends on my day job. Mm-hmm. If I've had a really busy day, well, they're always busy, but if they're particularly busy and I come home, I'm like, I just need to chill, and I just need to, just chill out. Cup of tea or a cup of coffee, watch the telly, not really thinking about too much.
Yeah.
But I would say about 3 or 4 evenings a week, I'm sitting drawing, even if it's just doodling for myself or to create something either as like a contract or a business or just for my own enjoyment.
Yeah. So, and that's when you know that you actually still, that obviously is
Mhm.
still a passion then, because when you're sitting there doing something for yourself, you know, so which is great. You've worked with quite a lot of different people then to collaborate with them on creating illustrations, from your Financial Times cartoons through to doing, you know, stuff for books.
Yeah.
What is it like when somebody first kind of, you know, contacts you then to you try and figure out what it is that they're actually working and what they're wanting? I think that for me always seems to be the most difficult thing. I think you need to vision inside their head what they're trying to depict. So how has it worked for you?
Well, I've said this before. It is like a marriage. It's like to and fro. You know, what's your suggestion? What's your idea? How do you envisage it? And sometimes, if they can share colours or memories or even like a mood board. I mean, they don't have to do that. A lot of them don't do that. But you know, I just try and pull as much information as possible. So I ask a lot of questions like, you know, what kind of character, who's your favourite illustrator, what kind of style do you like? And that's where I sort of get the idea. Then I'll produce some images, some quick sketches, and then I'll forward them to the author, and then they'll come back say, well, could you tweak this? Could you add this? And I was thinking about this, and it's really just like you're baking a cake, if you like. You know what I mean? But you don't know what their favourite ingredients are until you talk to them. Then they sort of, oh, actually, I quite like coconut. Can you
can you put some of that in? Yeah.
So it's that.
And I suppose that's the thing that they said, that evolving stuff, and particularly if you're working with a writer who, you know, if somebody's doing a children's book and it's a children if it's an illustrated book, then most of the time we've got writers who are coming to us who've written the story, right? So they've got, you know, so they've thought the story. And they might have had a vision inside their head of what that character looks like. Sometimes they don't, you know, not everybody does. You know, sometimes people are very, very visual and they know exactly what they look like and they're having to try and describe it to you. And other times it's like, well, it's this. And that challenge then for you is to really pull that out then so that you can create something.
Well, initially there's two things that happen. When I'm speaking to the author and they're telling me the story that they have written, I have, even when I'm having a normal conversation with somebody, I'm very visual and I actually have pictures in my mind. And that's what tends to happen with authors. And then when I read their book, that's more powerful as well. And then it's when I start reeling my thoughts and they'll come back with their thoughts, and that's how it sort of builds up into hopefully something that we can work together on.
You can work on. So I'm going to kind of share my screen and sort of find a few of the images. Right, the one I want to pick then is, let's go to this and see if I can share. So hopefully you're seeing Pam, because it's always confusing as to what actually people are going to see when you click this. So this is Pam's Pam Ray's book.
No, I can see the holiday twist.
Ah, right, okay, that's weird because it's like, because at the moment I'm looking at Pam's. I clicked on the holiday twist and then I'm seeing, but that's fine. So the people who are watching this are going to see the holiday twist. So Zeba's book, I mean, that was the thing. So that was kind of a multi-language kind of book looking at different holidays. And there's so you've got your own you were adding then the illustrations for that. You were keeping it in terms of the style of that book put together. How did that come about?
Well, the style, what helped with that is his wife had drew some sketches and he shared those sketches with me, and he says I would quite like it to look like that, to look similar, very simplified. So that's how we carried it forward. and he would then, I would send him the files, and he would come back and say, can they have a wee bit more here? Can different coloured hair, a certain shade. I would quite like this colour or that colour. So once again, we just back and forth, until he was happy with it.
Yeah. So that's the you then you end up with that kind of, and his is quite a simple style, I suppose, in terms of there's not a lot, you've not gone overly with the background. There's not tons and tons of descriptions around the background. So is that also something, is that discussing that with the writer at the start about how much do you need, because some people will maybe want lots of detail in a picture, and others kind of think that they want a more kind of minimalist style, so
I suppose it depends on the age, the readership that they're aiming for. For example, if an author was aiming for, a very simple picture book for 3 to 4 year olds, I would, and they wanted a lot of tiny detail, I would sort of encourage them. I think a more simplified palette and a more simplified design would be more engaging for them, rather than lots of information for them to take in.
So that's where you've got, like I said, this marriage is then from somebody who's come up with a story and looking at the words, and you then being very visual and helping them to take their words and actually turn it into the book, so that the reader is then going to enjoy it. And whether, like I say, if it's a young children's book, then you want something that's colourful, obviously is going to be really important, the kind of colours, and but like I say, you don't need too much detail if it's a if it's a young child's one. So
plus, if the readership is really young, like they're learning to read, say 5 or 6, if it's too jazzy and too the background is too busy, and then the text goes on top, that's going to hamper their reading. If they're going to attempt to read it themselves. So you have to consider that, the layout as well.
One of the other things I think that I see when you've then got a writer coming with maybe something that's a little sort of like older book, so I'm just going to say that we'll use Pam's as a good example, right? So we've got Pam Ree's book, fairly new now, and this is a kind of time travel story from the that kind of connects with World War II. I love how this image came out for the cover. I thought it worked really, really well.
The good thing, if you can recall, when Pam gave us the ideas for what she wanted for the chapter illustrations, she gave a lot of written detail for each chapter, which was great. And I think she may be a visualizer as well, because she had said, I want this like swirling effect and that. So that really helped me as well.
And that was a bit about actually thinking, right, so in this, like what we've got, and I'll pull up the other images shortly, but you can see that the chapter, at the start of the chapters, then Helen created illustrations that went with that. But you're having to think about, just one illustration that would really depict that chapter. And that was the bit as well about sort of pulling out what is it that you really want to show then, because you've talked about lots of things in it, but actually what is the image that's really going to help and really be so, like I said, so having that kind of real useful stuff then is what makes the difference.
Because although I'm an illustrator, sometimes you don't want to give too much away.
Can you see Pam's now, hopefully? Is that?
That's
good.
Sometimes you don't want to give too much away, because obviously you can illustrate that whole chapter in one wee image, but you just want to give a wee teaser so that the reader is wanting to, I wonder what happens there, to move on.
And that's so if a writer is thinking at the moment of it's maybe a chapter book, something like this. So, you know, this is kind of 8 to 12-year-old type stuff that you're maybe wanting to then add your some illustrations in this format, that if they're thinking about what's the key thing that they really want the reader to kind of just get a hint of at the start of that chapter, and writing, you know, if they were coming to you to write you quite a descriptive piece about this, because if they've got that in their head about how this is, because it might not all be the detail in the reading of the book, but they've got this, if they were writing that to you or to any other illustrator, it gives you a much better idea as to how to start.
Yeah, it certainly does. But I also like to add my own wee bits, like, see, for example, see the image there, the boy feeding the dog.
Yep.
On the mantelpiece, I went and put 2 Wally dogs up, because and that clock, clock, the 2 Wally dogs, that was what my gran had, and she was obviously for that era.
Yeah.
So that sort of that was an inspiration there as well.
Yeah. And that's things, so you're pulling stuff from like, you're coming up with ideas, that's what you're saying, you're pulling stuff together and thinking, oh, I can add little bits there. We know what the scene's supposed to depict, but you've got a bit of free rein then to share that.
And the good thing is, because it's what I tend to do is, so that I can make edits really quickly, I'll send the files to the author, and if the author was like saying, well, you know, I don't really like Wally dogs, I probably, and I think I did, I actually created the Wally dogs on a separate file, so that I could remove that if they didn't want that, if they wanted something else there. So it's really quite easy to edit as well, because it's done digitally.
Yeah. So, and I suppose that's the thing from you. I know that you've evolved to do more work digitally rather than, you know, like by, you know, traditional kind of like pen and pencil and stuff. But
I still do the traditional as well, obviously, but it really depends on what the author's looking for.
Yeah. And like you say, for quickness, if you're doing something, and certainly sort of working with us, we're putting books together, you know, stuff that's in layered files is easier then to adjust. And for you know, because otherwise, if you've got a picture that you've drawn, and you're either having to scan it or take photographs of it and then turn that into a digital image, that can be, you know, there can be a lot of work even just in getting that, you know, what you've done and it's a digital format.
Yeah, the first book that I ever did was it was when I was still studying, and I did all that by hand, and that was really, that was tough. Because sometimes they don't realise the amount of time that's required, whereas if it's digitally, I can get there quicker. So that was, I was coming home I was studying throughout Glasgow, coming home, and I was on it for, you know, like every night up until maybe 10 o'clock at night for days and well, in fact, it was weeks. But can I just show you the digital pad, because I'm not wanting people to think that these images are already floating about and I'm just editing them.
No, you're creating them.
This is my pad, so it's like just like a piece of black card, really. And I'm still like drawing. This is my pen. So that's how I create those using the computer.
So it's still your drawings, but it's just a different medium to use.
That's right. It's a cleaner, tidier medium. Because when I was painting and doing everything, I mean, this whole room practically was my studio.
And it's I suppose you're not so likely to skip. You don't spill paint then when you're doing it digitally. That's
no, that's it. And it's great. Just get your eraser out if you're not happy with something.
And I think that's the thing. I know, because like my sister Linda is an artist as well, and she's done this,
and she's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Portraits for her thing. You know, she loves to paint a face. That's her. you know, the challenge is, like you say, if somebody then says, and she does a lot of stuff in oils or acrylics. I mean, painting's definitely her thing. But you know, somebody then says, "Oh, could you just change that?"
I know.
You know, you've spent 2 weeks with oil painting. Okay, right. You know, at least the thing doing something digitally is, like you say, it makes changes and edits on something so much easier than if you're doing stuff by hand. So
when I was first learning how to use it, because I had to do it as part of my learning, I hated it. I'd always been traditional, absolutely hated it. In fact, I think there was one else, and she was like, "I can't do this." But do you know what? I decided to, you know, let's knuckle down. And once the learning had finished and I did what I had to do, and I passed that aspect to it, then I just did it and I doodled and I built it up. It was like self-learning. That's eventually how I became to enjoy it, because I didn't have to make sure I did this part and that part and that part. I just learned the process, the other areas of the process that way.
Yeah. And then you've done other work with us. You know, it's just you know, we've got some stuff around. You know, some just doing book covers. So here we are. You know, Stephen Shane Batch, and this was lovely. And I can actually pull it up on the screen as well and share the screen, and hopefully it'll. Here we go. I should share. So hopefully you're seeing Stephen's. I don't know, something happened with me. I keep. It's always Pam's. It's so showing in front of me. So you're seeing Stephen's now.
You actually did it.
I did it, right? Okay, that's good. I know I'm clicking on it, but it's for some reason it's down here. Anyway, yes. So Stephen's, you know, Stephen's book. You know, I actually did it. So he moved from the States to Canada after Trump was elected. He's still in Canada and loves it. So that's the thing. But you know, because he wanted something. So it's not a children's book, but he wanted a particular image, you know, on his cover. So that was the thing. It was about actually just, you know, taking some inspiration from him and then sort of putting this together so that we could, you know, you could actually depict what it was that we really wanted on the cover. That was quite fun. And I loved it. I love Stephen, you know, like, and he's multicolored, different country jammies, really.
I think he should get a pair made. I think he should tape something down with him on.
Absolutely. I think
he would do that, actually.
I think he probably would, yeah. So that's
Hi, Stephen.
No, we're giving you a shout out. Your book's great. Yeah, get your jammies done. So, and he'll be saying, what are they saying? Because we had conversations with Stephen, and poor man, here he is. He comes from New York originally, and he's sitting there going, what on earth are these two Scottish women blethering on about? Or he wouldn't say blethering on about, but it was like he needed a translator.
I know. Eventually he got used to
it. And you know, so that's the thing, is you can, you know, that using illustrations doesn't just mean for a kid's book. You know, that's the, you know, there's so many opportunities. And Deborah, we'll give a wee shout out for Deborah. Deborah Murphy's book as well, and I loved what we did. I mean, there you are. That's her. You know, it's just Deborah's book, and you've got going right round the cover. You know, we've got Mr. Murphy on the back. You know, just playing his guitar and just different things. But Deborah, you know, again, Deborah she didn't want a photograph of herself on the cover, but we wanted to really depict her, and because the feel, I mean, Deborah's book is, it's recipes, but there's lots of stories, and we really wanted to capture that feel on the cover, and her definitely her cakes, her bakes, and her cups of tea, and we had to have the dog there as well. But that came out really, really well. And again, that process of discussing with Deborah and getting, so you were getting photographs as well.
Yeah, I was getting images from her, and a few of the images were, she's a hill walker, and the images were absolutely stunning. And one of the images is what hill is it again? Can you remember? It was she had took an image.
Oh yeah,
that would look amazing. So I went and brought the opacity down so that it was very, very faint. So you'll see those. It's very muted.
And you can see
Well,
it in the
that
back
was
as
actually
well.
one of her photographs, and I
Yeah.
sort of played about with the colour.
Yeah.
And so that is part of it. Maybe she would be the only one to realise that that's exactly what it is, but
Yeah.
it's still part of her. So she's part of the process of creating illustrations as well.
Yeah, yeah. I remember with Deborah, because with the first one, she said, "No, can you change it with her eyebrows or something?" That I said, "For extra money, we can do Botox on you too."
I know. That was good fun. She's a superstar, eh?
Yeah, Deborah's. So yeah, a big shout out to you, Deborah, because I know that she's had a few health challenges again recently. So we hope that you're doing well. Because she's been writing another kind of set of stories and stuff. So I'm sure we'll have some more books to share of hers in the future. I think one of the things I wanted to pick up on is the idea of copyright.
Mm-hmm.
And who owns the rights to the illustration. Because it's not something that writers often kind of really think about until they come and they say, okay, that's fine, I'm paying you to do this illustration, but can you explain a little bit about, you know, what really kind of what it means and who owns the image rights and things?
I mean, as far as I'm aware, there may have been legal changes through the years, but it's always been a case that the copyright belongs to the artist, and some authors find that hard to accept it, or maybe didn't realise that, because it's their story, it's their ideas, it's their baby, it's their, you know, something that they've nurtured and grown, and they're just giving you a snippet. Go and create part of this that I've created. So, but the images do belong to the illustrator. But as a for me, as a common courtesy, I wouldn't then go on and sell calendars and posters and so on. For that to happen, if the author wanted complete copyright ownership, then they would have to pay extra for that, because sometimes an artist's main body work or main income is through prints and so on. But for me, I wouldn't go down that route. But what I would do is I would have an exhibition with my artwork. Okay. And I may sell the original art pieces, but I certainly wouldn't go and send it to other companies for them to, you know, to make things out of.
So I think it's just really for anybody who's thinking about going to approach an illustrator or going to get involved, is just recognise that you have to have a conversation about the copyright and ownership of the image and what you are actually able to do. So if you're working with another illustrator, be very careful that you actually know what you're paying them for.
Yes, what they're signing for, what you're signing for, it's like the contract.
Yeah, because it's really important that you know that if you've commissioned that piece of work, can you go and use it for other purposes? You know, if you've commissioned it for your book, can you then go and create characters, for example, out of that? You probably find that wasn't necessarily the original agreement, so therefore you might have to go back and negotiate that again with your illustrator. So it's just like, again, we're not sitting here being legal experts in the copyright stuff, but we're just want to flag up that it's something that you need to be aware of.
Well, what we tend to do is, like common courtesy, if they're advertising their book or sharing their book, then they can share the illustrations, because that's part of it. But having a wee credit, illustrated by Helen Cochrane illustration, or a link to the website, is common courtesy.
That's it. So if we're doing anything that's going to promote the book, then fine, it's alongside it. But for other things, so just be aware and think about that if you're looking at illustrations for your book. I'll just kind of come back round to the work that you've done on the cartoons and the Financial Times stuff that you did as well, because that was a different level of stuff that you were doing. How did you get into kind of doing work for the Financial Times? There's a bit of a leap then from doing children's books to Financial Times cartoons.
My friend Rona McLeod, she's another artist. She's a fantastic artist who creates images of animals. She's got 3 horses, and and dogs and so on. She just loves animals, and me and her studied together. She had an exhibition, I think it was in Falkirk, and the art gallery had went to her and said, look, there's this gentleman who's looking for an illustrator. Do you know anybody? And she went, so she had put forward my name, and I think Nicholas, it was Nicholas Leonard, a lovely gentleman who sadly passed. He got in touch with a few illustrators, and me and him just hit it off, and he liked the style and so on. And we started sort of working together. And what we did was we came up with ideas, mainly his ideas, and I created the images. And then he got, I think somebody for the Financial Times got in touch with him, because he actually used to be an editor of the Irish, the Financial Times there, and like a few years back. But I mean, Nicholas was an amazing character. If you get the chance, if you can have a look at Nicholas Leonard, and unfortunately it was his obituary, and it tells you that he's got an incredible background, incredible life. And anyway, he passed last year. But anyway, we got in touch. The Financial Times got in touch with him. We're looking for cartoons. They knew that we were involved in cartoons, and it ended up that we were creating weekly cartoons for the Financial Times, for the international editions and the UK editions, and we produced together over 100 cartoons. So it was, I mean, I know nothing about, God love him, what he used to do is he would write, he was really into obviously financial, and he was bang up to date with everything financial, business wise that was happening in the world. And then he would tell me what he wanted. It has to be outside an office, and a male and a female, and so on. But then he would give me in layman's terms exactly what it was about, so that I could get the look of the face right, and the characters right. But we worked really, really well together.
So there's the life of an illustrator. You never know. From one minute you're doing something for the Financial Times, to you're doing a children's book, to you're doing covers for a cookery book, to all sorts of things that just kind of pop up.
I'm very fortunate.
It's also, I guess, you get to do something that you enjoy. That's it. It's always good if you're getting to do something you enjoy. So where can people see? Because you've got a new page now, haven't you? That you're sharing some of your artwork then.
Oh yeah. Well, that's Hink, HINK, because Helen and ink, and then a Hink.
I'm hinking about something.
Because I've got my Helen Cochrane illustration Facebook page, but I just wanted something that's sort of is a wee bit more tidier, and just straight to the point where people can go and buy any prints or original artwork, or things like that. But I'm actually working on the portfolio and building that portfolio, and that should be out or open, if you like, sometime during the summer.
Okay. So that's the summer holidays sorted for you.
Yes, then. That's my summer holidays sorted.
So we will put some links out to stuff as well. Once the video is up, we'll share some links in the comments so that people can find you. And can I just say, it's great. I love to get to work with you. you know, it's always good when I've got somebody who's saying, oh, I might think about an illustration for something. I was like, so I've got the very women that we can actually, you know, that we can get in touch with.
Thank you.
And you've always done such a great job at helping kind of look, whether it's a cover or whether it's the illustrations inside. So thank you so much for all that you've done.
Well.
And
because you're becoming a bit of an agent here. And I really appreciate it, and tell Sinclair thank you as well.
Oh, that's fine. Yep, he's away making my dinner now. That's the yeah. We get him working doing the real stuff, and I just get to blether to everybody. That's it. What could be better? So thank you very much, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you find it useful. And if you've got any questions, wherever it's posted, it's probably going to be Facebook, might be on YouTube, so you can actually put comments there. But yeah, you can also just get in touch if you have got a project that you're thinking about for a children's book, or you're thinking about, I like the look of that. That would be something. Then come and talk to us, and we'll see what we can do for you. So thanks, Helen. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great to share tonight. So thank you very much.